Okay. I want to remind everybody this meeting will be recorded. Our policy is that stills and excerpts from the video may be used by the club in its public relations and social media outreach. Exceptions can be made on request by certain members if they don't want their video to be shown. Most videos are shared within the Facebook group for this club as member education. Welcome to Online Toastmasters, where we improve our learning skills for better webinars and online events. We want to thank Ring Central for hosting this meeting. They provide the software for us, which is integrated with Ring Central Office. It includes Glip Team messaging, and they use a Zoom-based video conferencing tool, but you have to log into Ring Central, not Zoom. Ring Central is winning on the cloud. They make up a major percentage of the cloud technology for office products or office communications. Online meeting tips. It's best to use a headset or earbuds, noise canceling microphones, and mute your mic when it's not your turn to talk. The mute button is in the lower left-hand corner. And you can also turn your video off if you're going to get up from your chair or do something that might be distracting. And then you can turn it back on when you're back in place. And as we said in the meeting too, is be careful that if you have your microphone unmuted, any typing noise, even though you may not hear it, may come across as audio noise of clicking noise. There's various video controls. You can do a speaker view, which shows the primary speaker in a large view with a few avatars on the side or across the top, or you can have the group view where you see everybody tiled across the screen. Want to keep track of who the timer is, so you know who the timer is, and so you can watch for the green, yellow, and signal lights. Take a moment to locate the thumbnail image of who the timer is. It's best if the timer also puts after their name that they're the timer so that he's easily identified. Timers are encouraged to use cue cards along with possibly an audible signal, such as tapping a glass or ringing a small bell. Something brief, but something that we can hear. If you're interested in becoming a member, we have a few guests tonight. We have a join button on our website. You click the join and you fill out the information. We do require, typically, that a member has completed at least 6 Toastmasters speeches. And after the second visit, they make a 1 to 2 minute speech about why they want to join the club. We can make exceptions for people that are not Toastmasters but have other speaking experience. And now it's showtime, so I'll turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day.
All right, thank you. And we may have warned you along the way that sometimes we will mute everybody just to avoid audio problems. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to mute everybody except me, but you can unmute yourself using that button in the lower left-hand corner. So as Toastmaster, my job is to run as smooth of a meeting as I can. I have some helpers to help me do that, starting with our counter. Who's always extremely helpful, the counter? Who doesn't love the counter? That's Jim Dent tonight. What will you be doing, Jim?
I'll just say, yes, I'll be the counter. So I'll be listening for people that use filler words inappropriately, and I'll do the best I can to do a count and give a report towards the end of the meeting on who didn't use any filler words and who maybe used filler words and what the most filler word was they used. Filler words is such like ahs and ums, well, so, and possibly inappropriate length of pauses. Back to you, David.
All right, terrific. And as our timer, we have Elaine. And Elaine, I'm sorry, you said you had some questions actually about how to perform the timer's duties.
Well, I'm Elaine Nieberding. This is my first time being timer. I have my green card, my yellow card, and my red card to raise up at the appropriate time to signal the speaker, the table topics presenter, or the evaluator. If I do it for all of those, I think I do.
That's correct.
Okay, and so this evening, Carol's speech is listed in the agenda as 7 minutes. So does that mean at 6, the green goes up? At 7, the yellow goes up?
No, 5 is green, 6 is yellow, 7 is red, and then we have a 30-second buffer before she would be considered to be disqualified.
Okay, great.
I believe they're all 5 to 7 minute speeches tonight, so it'd be the same for all of those. Table topics, they're supposed to speak a minimum of 1 minute. Then yellow is 1:30, red is 2. Okay.
30 and 2. And do we hold up anything during the evaluators?
Again, these actually are on the agenda, by the way, but green is 2 minutes, yellow 2:30, and red is 3.
Okay, and for point of clarification regarding Sunny Fridge this evening, the agenda had something that her speech was 3 to 5 minutes. Is that incorrect or is that correct?
I had to change the non-manual. Toastmasters said they don't recognize a non-manual speech, so I'm doing from speaking to inform 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. So I know what to do, and I will be providing a timer report at the end of each section, letting people know, yes, who qualified to be voted on for the best in that area.
Great. Our grammarian tonight is Dagmara.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As a grammarian today, I will be paying close attention to your use of English, and at the end of the meeting, I'm going to give you a report. What else? Before that, I would like to introduce the word of today, which is haphazard. Means that something is marked by lack of plan, order, or direction. An example of the sentence could be, I haphazardly arranged flowers in a vase. So please use this word of the day as much as you can. I put it just in the chat. Thank you. Back to you.
Fantastic. So I know it's going to be, David was running the meeting, so it was rather haphazard, but that's all right. Our watcher today, Adrian, picked up that role. Tell us a little bit about the watcher's role for those who may not know.
Hello, it is my job to make sure that your backgrounds are good. So just be aware that if you decide to eat or do something unusual on the camera, please take your video off, like fall asleep. Thank you.
All right. Our vote counter, Deborah Carr.
I'm here. So just be sure to send all your votes to me. All right?
Okay. As Jimmy mentioned, it might actually not be a bad idea to add vote counter to your name. If you want to click in the participants panel, you can rename yourself. Our chat monitor, Norman Dow.
Hello, I'll be monitoring the chat, and at the end, we'll give a summary of the interactions between the members or the attendees as they chat throughout the meeting.
All right. Well, that concludes our introduction of roles. We're ready for our formal speeches. We have 3 tonight, starting with one of our most experienced members, Carol Prahinsky, working in Dynamic Leadership Level 2, learning your style, understanding your leadership style. and her title is Understanding Your Leadership Style. As a candidate for international director and a business professor, our first speaker knows the complexity of leadership. Today's conversation takes a deep dive into something called leadership style as she starts level 2 of class pathways. Please join me in welcoming charter member and one of our most valued, Carol Pransky.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. And tonight we are going to spend some time exploring this concept called leadership style. What exactly is it? And I have to say, it's crazy and messy and disorganized. And I like things organized. You see this bookcase here? There are so many books on leadership. And guess what? They all say something different. They're all organized different, even by the same author. How do we make sense of this topic? Well, tonight we're just looking at something called style. And so we're going to expand on it. I'm going to pull out some information that is in one of my favorite books. It's by Northhouse, and he wrote Introduction to Leadership. So this is actually designed for more practitioner-oriented as opposed to academic. So when we look at leadership, one of the things that we might say is, of course, leaders are born and then they are made. After all, Toastmasters is about the fact that we believe that leadership is a skill that can be learned and we can practice in behaviors and get feedback on that to improve our performance. Now, when we look at style, there's a couple of assumptions. Now, I'm going into philosophy for a minute. It's actually called Theory X, and Theory X believes that the average employee hates to work, the average employee needs direction and control, and the average employee wants security and no responsibility. That's Theory X. And so when we take a leadership style, if we believe this, we're going to behave and implement in that manner. Theory Y, on the other hand, believes that the average employee the average employee believes that work is as natural as play. The average employee shows responsibility and self-control, and the average employee accepts responsibility and even seeks it out. So if you believe that, we want to take a closer look at how will we implement it. So with the leadership styles continuing here, we're going to take a look at two different ones. The first one is called authoritarian. It's based on Theory X. And authoritarian, and we might imagine this, is we have the person at the top of the organization chart, and that person is giving feedback, not feedback, they're telling you what you need to do and get it done. They see themselves as directors and they're coordinating the different people and saying, go do that and go do that. And then they want to control the information. So bringing it back to the central area, they're determining which tasks need to be done, which procedures, who's going to do it, and when the due date is. They prefer that centralized structure in both communication, control, and pretty much everything. Now, the other type is called democratic leadership style. And a democratic leadership style is based on Theory Y, and they see themselves as guides, coaches sometimes. They want to provide opportunities for the people that report to them. They really work at improving worker motivation. So when you look at a leader that uses a democratic philosophy, a democratic practice, you will see strongly motivated employees. In addition, they tend to prefer a decentralized structure, meaning that they're allowing individuals to make their own decisions and, in other words, take responsibility themselves. Now, there are disadvantages to both. All right, with the authoritarian, they don't have such a fun environment. That tends to be the weakness there. And with the democratic, they have people like working in a democratic environment, but it takes a lot of time. So when we look at this, we might be going along a continuum. The leadership influence is that the authoritarian leader is highly influential, meaning that they are making decisions and it's being implemented across the board. The democratic leader is using moderate amount of influence, and they're working with their teams to make sure that the teams are making some decisions and the democratic leader is not that interested in being in total control of the business. And the last one on the list is a laissez-faire leader. And I didn't talk about this one yet, but the laissez-faire leader is the person who really isn't doing much about leadership at all. They are just letting things go and seeing what happens. And they won't necessarily influence or coach or tell you what to do. They just let things go. So when I did this test, I came back and found that my leadership style was a combination of democratic and authoritative. Now that might sound a little strange, but if we look at that continuum we had on the previous slide, it suggests that I'm somewhere between the two, that I find times where I am democratic and there are certain environments that I want to be democratic. And there are other times that I will fill the role of authoritarian leadership. So this test in the level 2 of Pathways is actually a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed taking it to be able to get these results. So I'm encouraging you to continue the path and try this, figuring out what your leadership style is. Now, each of us have strengths and weaknesses. Now, what I listed, I've tried to focus on some of the strengths of each of these different styles, but recognize that no matter what, they also represent the weakness. And this is a irony, if you will, that we have the same strength can be interpreted as a weakness. And so we need to be balanced in how we do business, how we are leading people. Now, at this point, I want to wrap it up to say everyone has a style. I want you to continue exploring what is your style and examining what are your strengths and how are those strengths perhaps a weakness, to make sure that we are balanced as individuals and as leaders. Now, I happen to be doing this as a webinar today, and so if you have additional information or would like to contact me, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much, and passing it back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Carol. We actually have a leadership extravaganza in store for you today. We have 3 speeches about different aspects of leadership. I guess we had a theme, we just didn't know it. Rod Moore is also working in a Pathways project, Leadership Development, Level 4, Building Your Skills, Leading Your Team is the specific project, and his title is the Charter Dinner Project. That's all I know. Take it away, Rod.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, the Charter Dinner Project. So I'm currently doing a project which is called Lead Your Team, and the purpose of the project is to lead a small team to the completion of the project. Now, the project that I've chosen is the Charter Dinner for a brand new club here in District 69, which is the Comedy Club. So a little bit of background about the Comedy Club. We came together about 9 months ago, and 2 ladies within the Central Division, where I'm a member, decided to put together a club which we had a focus on comedy. And it's evolved over time since then, and we've brought in obviously 22 members so that we got to the point where we're ready to charter. One of the interesting things about the club is that as it's evolved, we've taken on a little bit of an identity crisis, because half the members have joined because they're looking to be part of a comedy club, and the other half because our tagline is a serious club for serious speakers, which I guess is a bit of a play on the name, a play on words. So the other half of the members have joined because they want to be a serious speaker and develop into a world-class speaker with the addition of humour into their speaking ability. So we have a little bit of an identity crisis that has sort of developed as we've grown and headed towards the point where we've chartered. So I took on board the project of organising the Charter Dinner for the Comedy Club. So we've got 22 members. And as part of that project, my objective was to lead a team of people to organise that particular event. So the event was going to be the Charter Dinner, and I pulled together a team. Now, when you talk about leadership styles, and our last speaker spoke about the authoritarian and democratic styles, I have to say that I'm very much an authoritarian leader. And the Vice President of Education and the President, I would say, are both authoritarian leaders as well. So as I discussed with them me doing this project and putting together a team of people involved in organising the charter dinner, naturally, as it was their baby, the comedy club, they were the ones who had the idea and put all the energy into birthing it into being. Naturally, they wanted to be on the organising committee. So what was quite interesting was we had 3 authoritarian leaders on the organising committee. And in hindsight, that may not have been the best combination of individuals to try and organise a major event. However, I completely understand why they wanted to be involved, as it is something that they were the originators of. So we got together and we put together our plan and our expectations. They were really excited about it. They were expecting that we would get a venue that would hold 50 plus people and that we would be turning people away. They're very passionate about their club, and they felt that there hadn't been a club charter in the Central Division for some time, and they expected that they would have a lot of people interested in coming to this particular event. So at our original meeting, we organised who was doing what, and my role in as far as the actual doing of the work, apart from organising the committee, was really around the marketing, the online booking system, promotion, because my role in the club is the Vice President of Public Relations. So we each had our different roles, and we set about organising the charter dinner for the comedy club. Couple of things that I learned along the way, and I touched on it just a moment ago, is that when you get a committee of authoritarian leaders, then things don't go as smoothly as they probably could. So we maybe needed to balance our action committee out with some more democratic style leaders potentially, but also people who are willing just to get on with it and get the job done. So we had quite a few different combinations of opinions as to how we should have progressed with organising the comedy club. We've managed to work through it, and we had a successful outcome. But that was a key lesson for me, was when you're organising an action committee, make sure that you have a nice balance of different personalities and leadership styles. And the other thing was have clear guidelines about who is ultimately in charge of running the committee. The second lesson that I learned was that anything that could possibly go wrong probably will. First thing that went wrong, our venue, which is our home club venue where we meet once a month, is in a what we would call a pub. I hope that translates into other areas of the world, but it's a pub with a function room, and we normally meet on a Friday night. However, we shifted our charter dinner to a Saturday night, only to find out a week before the charter dinner that the pub has karaoke nights, and the venue, which is normally empty on a Friday night, is packed full of people on a Saturday night, and in the function room you can't actually hear anything. So that was a big, big challenge for us. 1 week out from the charter dinner, we had to find a new venue and make sure that everybody who had registered was aware of this change of venue. That was a challenge. The other big challenge we had was that the charter documents didn't arrive in time for our charter dinner. TMI, for whatever reason, possibly because of their move recently, didn't get the documents to us. So we had to adapt and change and modify at the very last minute, literally the day before, the way we were going to present the charter and the documents that we were going to present. All in all, though, it was a very successful night. We had about 35 people attend. The comedy club is now chartered, and that completes my level 4. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rod. Well, as I told you, we have a triple this evening of leadership speeches. Sunny Fridge, our third speaker, is working on the Speaking to Inform manual, the Speech to Inform. Her title is, What's Your Leadership Lid? So I guess she's going to blow the lid off this speech. Sunny, it is all yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, fellow Toastmasters. I'm going to be talking about leadership today, and I'm going to be talking from a book that is from my mentor, John C. Maxwell. Has anyone ever heard of this book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership? Raise your hand. This book is by John Maxwell, and he says if you follow these laws, people will follow you. So how do you get people to follow you? In one thing John says, if you are taking a walk and if you're looking behind you rather, and nobody's following you, you're simply taking a walk, you're not leading. So what I want to find out today from you is if you have known that there is a leadership lid. So the law of the lid, that's law number 1, and it basically says leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness, and that the lower an ability's a leader's ability to lead, the lower the lid that it is on their potential, and the higher the individual's ability to lead, the higher the lid on his or her potential. So what's your leadership lid? I'm going to take my hands and use them as an example. If my right hand represents my leadership lid and my left hand represents my business, and my leadership lid is a 5, it means that my leadership ability will never go higher than a 4. If my leadership ability is a 7, it means that my leadership ability will never get higher than my lid. If it's a 7, it might get to a 5, maybe a 6. And so the goal would be to figure out, how do you raise your leadership lid? The higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. I wonder if you found that in your organization where you are working, or if you're an entrepreneur. But basically, John's law is saying that no matter what you do, you can't really lead any more people than what your leadership lid is. And that you will often find that you're going to have to raise your leadership lid if you want to be more effective. The greater the ability and impact you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. This graphic right here is a list of abilities, and what John suggests that we do, if you wanted to know what your lid number was, how high you can go, you would take this from 0 to 10, and you look at these 21 abilities and rate yourself from a scale on 1 to 10. And then depending on what number you come up with, you would divide it by 21. And that would basically give you your leadership lid. I took this test. For the most part, I gave myself some 7s and 8s. You can also ask a friend to base you and to grade you on your leadership lid. And then you might find something out that you didn't know before, whether or not they think that you are greater in a character area, or maybe you're better in listening than you thought. But it's a good way to give yourself an idea of where your strengths are and where you might need to improve to raise your leadership lid. Asking those closest to grade you, as I just mentioned, and you can evaluate and consider the similarities and differences. And then remember, work to your strengths. For me, I tend to say that my strength is communication. So I'd rather work with that strength. I love to listen, but I can always be a better listener. And that's what I love about Toastmasters when we take on these roles that make us listen, like being a general evaluator. Here are a few leads that you face as a leader: anger, fear, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, denial, impatience, and deceit. Those are things that you may face, or if you are under a leader, you may notice that these are some of the things that would challenge them to raise their leadership lid. You have to address these issues to get past the blocks that would keep you from getting higher on the leadership scale. So things that you can do today to raise your lid include valuing experience with reflection. A quote, "A man must be big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them." Also, another way to raise your leadership lid: mentorship, coaching, masterminds. Get around a group of like-minded people who have a focus on leadership or improving themselves. Do something beyond yourself. You can also volunteer. Adding value to people is a great way to improve your leadership lid. Caring about people, because they're always asking, do you care about me? It's been said that people will really admire a lot more about you if they know that you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Also, reflect on who has been a lid lifter in your life and what characteristics made them a lid lifter. Again, earlier I said, he who thinks he's leading and no one is following is only taking a walk. So think about that as if you're a leader and you look behind you and no one is following. I'd like to leave you with a quote by our Toastmaster founder, Ralph Smedley, who said, "But just what do we mean by leadership? It would appear to be the capacity to look ahead, think ahead, plan ahead, and then influence other people to go ahead on the plan." It's my hope, fellow Toastmasters, that you include in your plan ways to raise your leadership lid today. Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, back to you.
Whoa! Thank you very much. Let us hear from our timer for our speakers within time.
Yes, indeed. Carol Prahinsky's speech was 6 minutes and 44 seconds. Rod Moore's qualified at 6 minutes, 18 seconds. And Sonny Fridge's qualified at 6 minutes and 12 seconds.
Okay. And you can send your votes to Deborah, who's our vote counter. She's in the chat as Deborah Vote Counter. We now have a chance to get spontaneous. I can be spontaneous if you give me a while to prepare, but Lou Brown is going to lead us in table topics. Lou, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. How many of you have ever wished that you were selected for a topic that was said, but you were not selected? Well, everyone, we're going to do very good. Thank you, Jimmy, and I'm sure there's some others out there. Well, today, tonight, this afternoon, wherever you may be, we're going to do a little variation on a popular game show. I call this Online Presenters Jeopardy. Now, these topics will go to those without a speaking role. I do not know who you are, but I trust your honesty in that. Simply raise your hand if the topic interests you, kind of like the buzzer in Jeopardy. This will still test your listening skills because, of course, you have to listen for me as I give out the topic. You may know that our theme of the day is National Vanilla Ice Cream Flavor Day. There is a National Ice Cream Month, and I think a National Ice Cream Day. Now we even have National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. I wonder if there's a chocolate day and a strawberry day. But anyway, I digress. Timing for table topics, 1 to 2 minutes with a 30-second deviation. I will give you the answer. You come up with the question, but in 1 to 2 minutes. We will start, and again, for your buzzer, simply raise your hand. First one to raise their hand gets to go. Again, for speakers who did not have an existing speaker role, however, if nobody raised their hand, I'll just call in somebody. The answer is ice cream truck. Ice cream truck. Toastmaster Jim Barber, do you have a speaking role?
I was trying to unmute myself. No, I do not, Mr. Topics Master, but I'll be happy to volunteer in a hurry because, let's see, ice cream truck. Wow. I would go, what is the source of the happiest sound in childhood? Now, when you're a child, there are many, many happy sounds. The sounds of friends calling to you, saying, come out and play. The sounds of your mother saying, come into dinner. I fixed your favorite meal. There's all kinds of wonderful things. Dogs barking, cats meowing, wonderful things. A haphazard collection of wonderful sounds. But the most wonderful sound of all is the jingle produced by the ice cream truck. Because you know that when you hear the jingle, the bell of the ice cream truck coming down your street, you know there's a possibility, if you can coax a quarter out of your mom, that you're going to be able to have a treat and you're going to get to choose from all the wonderful ice creams that are in the ice cream truck. They still have ice cream trucks I still hear them go by occasionally. It doesn't quite have the magic that it did as a child. Maybe if they had beer trucks, I would get excited. I don't know. But I do wish that they had excitement like the ice cream truck. I think it would bring some joy into my life. But I do enjoy reflecting back on the memories of the sounds of the ice cream truck. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Barber. The answer is Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's. By the way, guests, you're also welcome to raise your hands. Don't be shy. Ben and Jerry's. Toastmaster Christian.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I have no idea why I went to that party on that fateful Saturday evening. Why I decided to take along a bouquet of white roses, whereas I should have been taking along a bouquet of red roses along with a tub of ice cream. Because that was the night I was looking forward to date the girlfriend of my life, because I was 19 years old at university, and that was going to be my single girlfriend, my single first girlfriend, who, hey, had handpicked me, little moi. Everything just went around, just like that ice cream tub that I forgot to put in the freezer. I decided to put it in the fridge, being in a hurry. I realized when I was using the ice cream, serving it to my lovely lady, that you need to store ice cream at a level around 10 degrees Celsius or lower, and not at 14 degrees Celsius or higher. I realized that as I was taking the spoonful of Ben & Jerry, and instead of a nice white vanilla colored ice cream coming out, it was a liquid. A liquid of ice cream milk that splattered everywhere as I let the box fall. That was the end of my ice cream adventure. That was the end of my paycheck that went in the bouquet of white roses. And that was the end of me eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Christian. Vanilla ice cream milk. It actually sounds quite delicious. The answer is brain freeze. Brain freeze. Ms. Rodrigues, would you like to take this topic, ma'am? Oh, you need to unmute or nod, or I couldn't tell. Was that a yes or no? Oh, we'll move on to Mr. Peoples. Would you like to take this topic, sir?
Well, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I would definitely love to take on this topic because I had brain freeze just yesterday. So in Michigan, we had this amazing heat wave. We had 100 days, it felt like, of 97-degree weather. And that's not normal here. As a matter of fact, my Michigan friends can tell you the weather can change on the dime. One day you can get up in the morning and it's 97, and by the evening it could be as low as 40 degrees. For those who don't know, that's cold. Well, at any rate, I went to the gym, had a nice workout. I was just finished these barbell presses, and I went to the fountain, and they had ice cold water, and I just started taking the drink, and then all of a sudden, you know how it comes on, like in a rush, and you feel it right here at the top of your brain, and you can feel it start to come in, and you go, oh crap, what do I do? You press your gong on the and that's the magic trick to solving brain freeze. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peoples. I love it. There's a solution to that. Awesome. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for any more Jeopardy topics? Sure. It is 7:39.
All right, one more.
Awesome. The answer is waffle cone. Waffle cone. Toastmaster Adrian, do you have a role today? Oh, Toastmaster Graham, do you have a role?
I do, but I can talk about waffle cones if you'd like.
Yes, sir, please do.
So the answer is waffle cone. The question is, what is a horribly expensive way to build your blood sugar levels really, really quickly? And the answer, of course, is waffle cones. I like ice cream. You can probably tell that I like food in general. I'm not the most svelte member of this club. But I have a particular liking for waffle cones in ice creams. Now, I should tell you that waffle cones are not something that you get all the time in Australia. Mostly you have to go to a specific ice cream shop to get them. But there is one particular brand of ice cream which is sold in drugstores and supermarkets and everywhere called the drumstick. Now, the drumstick is shaped like a cone, and it has a waffle cone, normally around vanilla ice cream and with a bit of chocolate on the top, and then the nuts. The nuts are what make the drumstick, I have to tell you. But the waffle cone is really exciting because as the ice cream starts to melt inside the cone, and ice creams do in Australia because it gets quite hot here, you can bite the bottom off the waffle cone and then suck the slowly melting ice cream out through the bottom. And you get this incredible sensation of slight crunchiness, half melted ice cream. And then at the end of it all, you've still got this coating of ice cream across the waffle cone, which you can munch, munch, munch and think, now that was really good. Can I justify a second one? Yeah, why not? Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Graham. And thank you all to our participants for participating in Online Presenters Jeopardy! Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the music. Da, 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 but you know how that goes. Mr. Timer, please post, or Madam Timer, sorry, I forgot who is the timing person for today's meeting. Please post the times in the chat box if you get a chance, or at least tell us if everyone qualified.
Everyone did qualify. Jim Barber was 1 minute 47 seconds. Kristen, 1 minute 59 seconds. Brain Freeze Joe was 1 minute 16 seconds. And Waffle Cone Graham was 1 minute 42 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Timer. Please send your votes to our Toastmaster Deborah vote counter. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great job, Lou. Well, now it's time for evaluations, that immediate feedback that makes Toastmasters the organization that it is. Starting with Lois Margolin, will be evaluating Toastmaster Carol this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Day, my fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and most especially Carol. Wow, this was a well-done speech. And I don't know why I sound surprised, because all of Carol's speeches are well done. It was well thought out. It had a lot of documentation and a lot of information. Very short time frame. I would have liked to have more, Carol. This is more like a half-hour to 45-minute speech that if you ever give, let me know, because I would like to be on that call. We heard a lot about the average X-employee and the average Y-employee. We also heard about the management style of the authoritative, the democratic, and then we just kind of threw in that laissez-faire type, just kind of at the end to throw us a curveball. What did Carol do really well? She quoted her source. She had good information that was easily understood, and she broke it all. We understood it's already been 2 minutes? I have 2 minutes, Elaine.
No, I was told, oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, my error.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, so a couple of things that you did really was that you had that information. It was broken out quite nicely. What could you possibly do to take this speech just a little bit higher? I would go ahead and try and lessen the amount of on the screen and maybe have more pictures, because there are certain times we're just reading the screen, and I would have liked to have seen some pictures and heard the words, and I would have loved to have heard stories. If you knew that you were authoritative and you were democratic, you are. even, I don't know what the odds of that are, but I would have liked to have heard a story of when your autocratic piece come out, your authoritative piece come out, and when did your democratic piece come out, and how did it work with the groups and flip them. So I would have liked the personal story so that seen the difference and felt the difference, how it impacted you in your final decision on how you were leading. Overall, you had great eye contact, fabulous information. There was a wealth of knowledge there, and I'm just glad that this is being recorded. Thank you again, Carol. Always brings to the group. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lois. Second, we have Graham evaluating fellow Aussie Rod.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and particularly Rod, before I begin talking about Rod's overall speech, let me look at the objectives that Rod was meant to achieve. And that is that he was supposed to discuss a specific learnings from the leadership role that he'd taken on. And Rod spoke about the dichotomy of having two different types or two strong leaders as he's leading to in setting up this thing. And I think it was particularly interesting that he spoke about that leadership role, balancing the authoritative and the democratic, and the need for actual workers, which was something that we often forget when we're setting up a team. What Rod did particularly well was he outlined what was right from the start. He outlined what he was going to be talking about. He told us where we were going to go. He also had a really nice use of tangential humor. In hindsight, that was perhaps not the best idea. I smiled wryly when I saw that because I've been in a situation like that. So I commend Rod for both of those. Rod, I also love the chatty and informational style which you use. And I would encourage you to continue using that, but I would encourage you to think also about the structure of your presentation. You gave us lots of information, but there was no specific takeaway. And I would really like to have had something that I could take away from your learnings. You spoke about them, but you didn't summarize them, which I'll get to in just a moment. Also, and I know this is an area of issue, an area that you are interested in. The reason that you joined this club is because you want to know how to present online specifically. Your presentation today didn't use the medium to its advantage. You could have used, for example, a video behind you instead of using a single shot of, it looks to me, a beach at Noosa. You might have used something like, and I know that you have used the Ignite technique where we have 15 seconds of different picture, every 15 seconds it changes. If you had had something running behind you in a video, or if you had used, as we saw with the other two speakers tonight, the screen sharing, that would make better use of this technology. But the leadership questions that were discussed tonight were the highlight of Rod's speech for me. He gave us some good advice and he left us with some questions remaining. The information, the chatty discourse on the struggles and triumphs of organising his club's charter, good use of humour and anecdotes, but it didn't actually leave us with any takeaways, but the focus on leadership lessons, exactly what Rod was expected to deliver. And so well done, Rod, on this speech. And I think that I'm looking forward to seeing you as you move into level 5.
Thank you very much, Graham. And we have one more evaluator, Dr. Byrne. You're still, yes. Andy Byrne will be evaluating Sunny tonight. Dr. Byrne.
Thanks very much, Dave, and most pleasurably listening to Sunny Fridge. Let me go over, I've had the ability to I've had the enjoyment of meeting John Maxwell in the past. And I know a number of his organizations really focus in on a lot of his works. Clearly, you are vested in that whole process. Your slides were wonderful. You appeared well on your screen with your Toastmasters logo on your shirt. The light is a little bit too bright in the two side parts of your screen, and therefore darkens you in the center. And if you had your lighting arranged a little bit, particularly that facing you as opposed to just the highlights behind you, it would probably make it a little bit better for us to clearly see you. You had great facial expression. I liked all the things that you're talking about, the law of the lid. If you look behind you and see nobody following, then you're not really leading. Lots of great tidbits. Lois can tell you that in our regular physical club for a while, we had a book club. And one of the books that we were reading was this book, The 21 Laws. And so it was a deja vu for me going back and remembering all the chapters and all the issues. You put out a lot of the issues and sayings on slides that were not overdone. You weren't reading word for word. You flashed them by and allowed us to look at it. And therefore, we were able to concentrate on you, what you were saying, and the key themes that each slide was providing. I liked your issues of the mentorship versus coaching, care about people, know how much you care by what you do, and the lid lifters. Are you putting artificial limits on where you can go, and your abilities to lift the lid and be able to go beyond that? The capacity to look and do is a very important law. The ability to walk the walk and talk the talk is also one of the things that John talks about a lot. So leadership is a lot of servant leadership from John Maxwell, but it's also a lot of leadership by example as opposed to just preaching to people what they should be doing. It's do what I say, not what I do, kind of cliches. He leads the way and shows how he leads the way. Thank you very much for bringing him back to us.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Byrne. A timer, once again. Maybe we may get to timer's report.
We have everyone qualified. Lois Margolin was 2 minutes, 27 seconds. Graham was okay at 2 minutes, 52 seconds. And Andy Byrne at 2 minutes, 46 seconds. Congratulations, everyone.
All right. And send Deborah your votes, please. Jim Barber, you're here as our general evaluator. You get to back cleanup and tell us what we could have done better tonight.
With pleasure, Mr. Toastmaster. Sunny mentioned in her presentation the importance of the general evaluator, specifically mentioned the general evaluator as a strong leadership position. I will try not to let her down. It was interesting that all three of our speakers talked about leadership tonight, and that applies to our club in two ways, one being a 1 hour club and the other being an online club. Both of those require a careful balance between a heavily structured club, on the other hand, the opportunities that come from spontaneity. And what you need to do is to have a flexibility. You've got to have a structure, but you've got to be able to also roll with the punches. And this club does that. It's wonderful the way they do it. The meeting did not go across the way it was necessarily planned, and yet everybody rolled with the punches. It was smooth. There were no rough transitions. It was very, very nicely, as illustrated, for example, by the three speakers. It was amazing. It couldn't have been planned any better than to have three speakers on the same topic, basically from three different perspectives. That was great. Special kudos to Lou Brown. Those were great table topics questions. I'm going to steal that for our next time I'm Table Topics Master, because I thought that was very creative. David Carr as Toastmaster, as always, did great. Jimmy Dent as President, and Carol Perhinsky. I loved the way that you welcomed everybody at the beginning of the meeting. Somebody needed to make everybody feel welcome. You stepped right into that. That was beautifully done. Basically, I have no suggestions. This club is great. The guests keep telling you that, and the reason is you've got that nice balance between organizations, heavily structured, and the spontaneity that comes, that allows opportunities to seize opportunities. So this is a great club. Continue doing what you're doing, and that takes care of my evaluation. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jim Barber. We should also ask for reports from our grammarian and the other roles. Grammarian, Dagmara.
Thank you, David. Guys, it was really a huge pleasure to listening to your speeches, and table topics were amazing today, and of course evaluation. And I really found a few great ways of how you use the language. For example, David said leadership extravaganza. I really love that. And then Sunny, she had a lot of great quotes or analogies. For example, leadership is the capacity to look ahead, think ahead, plan ahead, and then influence others to go ahead on the plan. Or he who thinks he's leading and no one is following is only taking a walk. Lifters, I think this was something that has been used by Graham. And again, Sunny, work to your strengths or get around the groups of like-minded people. I'm also, I really like the idiom that Jim Barber used, rolling with the punches. I really like to listen to Jim. He's using a very beautiful, elevated English. So for not native English speaker, it's a really great, like me, it's a really great way to learn. And I'm also happy to see that some of you used the words of the day, which is haphazard. It was being used only twice, once by David and once by Jim Barber. Overall, great job. Thank you so much, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you. Let's hear from our watcher, Adrian. Thanks for stepping into that role.
Hello, everyone. I want to give kudos to Rod Moore. Your background today and your imagery was just excellent. I felt like I was on a vacation in Tahiti. Honorable mention, of course, after that goes to you, of course, David. Your background and your colors, everything is just really good. Those are the two top for today. For everyone else, I would like for us to just focus on our lighting. And I'm going to show you something. When I go close, you see how it makes my face look yellow? When I come back, it blends it out the further I am. However, if the lighting is on the side of me, then sometimes you can get there or you get a shadow. So it's important for you to understand that the lighting should be behind your camera, but you also have to have a distance from the lighting so that you don't get this glare that I have. So for the lighting, if you could just work on it, Joe, it was great when you came closer to the camera, but most of the time you were sitting back and the lighting wasn't that great. Jim, Dagmara, Graham, Deborah, Sam, Iona, Carol, and for those of you who have the green screen, you actually look green. Your face look green. Some of your clothes look green. It's a little too green. So maybe there's a modification you can do in the settings so that it doesn't overshadow your skin tones with the background. Otherwise, everybody did a great job. Thank you. Back to you.
All right. And let's hear from our chat monitor, Norma.
Hello. One of the things that was mentioned quite often was the excitement about all the speeches being involved in leadership. There was a lot of mutual encouragement from even speakers, like Carol spoke, but encouraged other speakers on leadership. Questions on things like, is LID an acronym or really a glass ceiling? But it was a lot of good nature back and forth. Great table topics, lots of comments about how good and innovative they were. And the stories, I know that we have some that like beer, some that like ice cream, and some that love food. And that came out in this. Also, the quality of the evaluations being very, very helpful. There were compliments on that. All in all, a really good, robust backstory to a very active and great meeting.
Terrific. And then I always dread this moment, but I should ask for a report from the eye counter. Jim Dent. Jim, are you frozen again?
Looks like Jim's frozen again.
Maybe too much of that ice cream.
Ooh, no. Oh, I'll counter report. Okay. Moving right along.
I finally had 0.
Such a tragedy. I'm sorry. Oh, no, he's coming back to life. All right,
Yes,
Jim, give us the bad news.
Okay. I'll just report the ones that I caught ahs and ums and so forth on. So Andy, I caught 2 ahs. Carol, 4 ahs and 1 One twice you said now that I thought was inappropriate. You didn't need to start off a sentence with now. Graham, 1 ah, and 2 times you start off with and, which I thought was inappropriate, wasn't needed. Rod probably had the most. He had 4 ahs, 5 ums, and another statement where he started with now. Sonny had 2 ahs, that's all I counted. Dagmar had 3 ahs and 4 ums, and some of those were where you said together. And that's it. Everybody else, I didn't catch anything.
Okay. Deborah Carr, do we have some winners?
We do, and boy, it was a tight run tonight on voting. I'll tell you that. I was hoping everybody would vote so I could, I kept recounting because it was so tight. Anyway, so what we have is for the speaker, we have Sunny, the evaluator, Lois, and table topics, Graham.
All right.
There we go. What a fun night.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, let me hand the baton back to our president, Jimmy Dent. Maybe you can quiz our guests a little bit about how they'd like to manage.
Yes, thank you. Start off with Iona. What did you think of our meeting, Iona? Can you turn your microphone off?
I love the format of the meeting, and I believe this is a really good forum. It's very different from a meeting in person, and I think it's really good because you can actually read your speeches and get away with it. I really enjoyed the format, and it's lovely to see all the people from around the world, and I believe I'll be back. And I know my counterpart, Som, has had some problems, so he's been texting me. But apart from that, I thought it was brilliant. Thank you, Carol, for your warmth and hospitality, and David for being so warm and so helpful, because it's a different forum as usual. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. I would definitely like to personally invite you back again, so I hope to see you again next week. You and Som. And next would be Joe Peoples. What did you think of our meeting?
Well, it brought back a lot of memories. I had forgot about all the roles and the flow of the meeting. That was fun. I'd like to come back. This is a challenge, and I think there's a lot to be learned because this space is new, especially as it relates to lighting. Try to get that squared away. So there's just a lot to learn, and you guys are a great group of people. I love, what I love about it is the safeness of exploration and discovery and trying things out. There just aren't a lot of places like that, and this is special. Thank you.
Thank you. I definitely invite you back again. We hope to see you again next week. And guests and
Jimmy, it sounds like you're getting frozen again, but I'm going to interject for just one moment before we close it out and tell both Iona and Joe, I will be in contact with you and following up and seeing how everything's going and let you know if there's anything I can do to help you along.
Absolutely. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Have a great week, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Good night.